Welcome to Unboxed. I'm your host, Connie Nam, the founder of Astrid Miyu. In these conversations, I speak to the founders of some of the most innovative, bold, and exciting businesses to discover the person behind the brand and what it took for them to build their empires. My guest today is the founder, creative, and sustainability director of Stripe and Stare, Katie Lopes. Katie's journey with Stripe and Stare is a real lesson in grit and determination. Everybody knows that starting a business is tough, but this episode just shows that even when things aren't going your way, there is opportunity and hope if you just keep going.
My dad died on Sunday. I found out my husband had been living a lie for 2.5 years on Monday, and I was homeless and £1.5 million in debt. 90% of success is grit. Even in Chelsea, who is going to spend £18 on a little ball of lace?
Apparently a lot of people. Growing a business from a startup to a scale-up comes with many challenges. One way to solve this is to introduce effective systems at the right time. Payhawk, a corporate card and expenses management solution for scale-ups, have literally transformed many lives at Astrid Miyu since implementing earlier this year. To simplify, Payhawk combines company cards, reimbursable expenses, accounts payable, and seamless accounting software integrations into a single product that can be used globally. In this episode, Katie and I are discussing the importance of finding people that can do things better for you than you do. I also find finding great systems that can do the job better than you is so important in scaling a business, to eliminate human error and manual tasks. This is where Payhawk helps us in significantly reducing manual work and errors in financial month-end process. The costs also made sense for us as a still scrappy business since the software was doing half a headcount's job and more. Here are some key highlights of the software. First, Payhawk allows you to improve cash flow control across multiple departments and currencies by visualizing current funds versus upcoming spend via the group dashboard. Second, you can also choose to tailor workflows to accommodate specific requirements. For example, assign designated spend approvers at group or department level. This was an important feature for us as our org chart was getting more complex with international subsidiaries and expanding departments. Third, Payhawk has the best-in-class direct integrations with finance software and ERP such as Xero, which we use, or NetSuite, which was a huge draw for us, as we did not have dedicated resources to integrate and manage all of our systems naturally as a small business. If you would like to find out more, schedule a demo using the link in the show notes, and be sure to tell them you came from the Unboxed podcast to receive a 20% discount. Katie, thank you so much for being my guest.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, it's such an honor. So tell me about yourself, Katie Lopes, as well as Stripe and Stare.
So do you want the business side or the personal side?
Both.
Bit
Personal,
of everything.
the better.
Personal. Okay, so how old am I? 47. I'm a single mother. I've got 2 children, Connie, another Connie, who is 15 actually on Saturday, and Sam, who's 10. We live in Devon, which is where I started Stripe and Stare. So set up Stripe and Stare in 2017 after 6-7 years of research and development. And it's all about the world's most comfortable knicker, all responsibly sourced.
They are really comfortable. I'm wearing one right now.
You better be. And I'm
fully
covered in
stocked,
Astrid Miyu.
thanks to you. What's the inspiration behind Stripe and Stare?
So I used to be my first job out of uni was TV, which I loved, but I got to a crossroads. I was actually offered a really big promotion, which was kind of fast tracking me into the executive producer route. But I was looking at the women sort of 10, 15 years down the line from me, and they were making so many sacrifices in their personal lives for the sake of their career. And I was like, I want both. I want the career and I want the family, but I also want to work hard. So I made the decision to leave television, and my sister and I set up a retail store in Chelsea, in London, in 2004. We always knew that going into retail, it was going to be super tough, which is why I said to you before, when we were chatting earlier, it's like, you're so brave with the retail. I want to quiz you on it in a minute. So we were always looking for a way to support the business. We were buying contemporary brands, like we were the first people to stock Zimmermann in the UK
Yeah.
and Rag and
That's
Bone.
so cool.
Yeah, it was
You
really
had the
fun.
foresight, didn't you?
Well, I'm half Australian, so a lot of the
Yeah.
inspiration for the brands we were picking were from Australia, things we'd seen there that we loved, and things that were hard to find in the UK. So it was great fun, and the stores actually did much better than we thought they were going to. So we were very focused on that. But we were selling a little rolled up lacy G string from New York that was described as the world's most comfortable thong. And I had to be persuaded by my team to bring them in because they were like £18. And I was like, who, even in Chelsea, who is going to spend £18 on a little ball of lace?
Apparently, a lot of people.
A lot of people. Women were coming in and buying armfuls. So I got super interested in underwear. And I was like, well, it's great that we've got the thong, but we're British and we like a pair of pants. So there was just no brand doing a cool, contemporary, super comfortable, everyday pair of knickers. Remember, this was in the heyday of Victoria's Secret. So you had the uber sexy, male gazy underwear at one end, and then you had Marks and Spencer's dressing like your grandmother at the other. So there was just nothing in the middle that women actually wanted to wear.
Yeah, you're right. Even now, I can't really think of a brand other than Stripe and Stare that does like really good knickers and underwear.
Yet it's been a massive gap, and I think the industry's been dominated by a few major players for decades, and they've just not really moved with trends and times.
Yeah, I do have to admit, I've been in M&S knickers before I found you.
Most people come from Calvin Klein, M&S, or Victoria's Secret.
There's so many parallels between our lives because I started my career in investment banking, which was very heavily male dominant,
Yeah.
and like hours were crazy, like in TV. I'm sure it was very heavily male dominant there as well.
Exactly, and the men just sort of seemed to breeze in and out, and everything seemed very easy. But I suppose most of them were married, so they had the wife at home doing the family stuff, whereas the women were always like frantic and stressed.
Yeah, it was the same. It was the
Yeah.
same. Like all the senior bankers were either single or they had, they didn't have kids, even if they were married. And I didn't aspire to that kind of life.
No, it was, yeah, it felt like the women in TV, and I'm sure even more so in investment banking, had to be super tough to compete
Yeah.
in that male world.
Yeah, exactly.
It was kind of designed for men by
Yeah,
men.
and it just wasn't me. I was a bit more soft-spoken. I wasn't as aggressive, so I just didn't fit in. Were you the same? Or?
I was a super hard worker. There were probably more women in TV, and it wouldn't have been as aggressive. Although my first job, oh my God, people used to throw phones at people's heads, and the C word, which is even where I draw the line for swearing, was used a lot. But I don't know, I'm sure you're the same, and you have to be if you're running a business, but you're quite good at dealing with stress.
Yeah, I am. I'm pretty resilient.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it didn't scare me when people were sort of doing the screaming
Where
and
do
the
you
shouting.
think that came from? Because whenever I speak to founders, there's this like resilience that's a superpower in every single founder, every single successful founder. Anyway,
I was thinking about that recently, and I've got absolutely no idea. There's no entrepreneurs in my family. Like, my parents are not entrepreneurs. I don't know what gave me the confidence and I suppose self-belief. Do you have to have quite a lot of self-belief, do you think, to be
Yeah.
a founder?
Yeah, I think so. I was
Yeah.
speaking to Joanna Jensen, founder of Child's Farm, 2 days ago.
Oh, she's great.
And
yeah.
like the common thread in her story was grit and self-belief. She just believed in herself.
Oh, there's a great TED talk. I can't remember who did it, but literally they've done studies, and 90% of success is grit. You can go to the Harvards, you can get your MBAs, you can do all that stuff, but most of it is, what is it? Fall down 7 times, get up 8. And I think that's what all entrepreneurs
Yeah, I
have to
completely
have.
agree. Yeah, she said she had a really tough mom, so she never got praise. So that's where the grit comes from.
Isn't that interesting? No, my mum's not tough. I have no idea. I did have quite a serious illness when I was a child. Allergies. I was allergic to horses, and it was quite serious. And I think maybe that's made me a lot more resilient.
Yeah, it could be.
It's just
Yeah.
having to deal with something like that at a young age, maybe.
Yeah. And talking about resilience, is there an event that defined you? I know, like, you went through a bad divorce, you were in debt. Like, is that a huge event?
That was, God, there's so much in this. It's so I'd developed the knickers, thank goodness, and I'd been running my own business for 10 years when I got divorced. So thank God I had a product that I knew was great and that the world wanted. And also I knew quite a lot about business, having done it for 10 years. But the store was never going to make enough money. So literally I found out, it was the week from hell, my dad died on Sunday. I found out my husband had been living a lie for 2.5 years on Monday, and I was homeless and £1.5 million in debt.
Oh my goodness.
I mean, it was like, and then on Thursday, or the day of Dad's funeral, we were in Devon at the funeral, and my house in London got burgled, like properly burgled. Like, so if it wasn't the universe like yelling at me to,
That is
it was just
crazy.
being completely leveled. But it was really interesting because obviously I was in shock for a really long time after. But it's what forced me to basically put my big girl pants on and find a way through to build a future for my children and I, because I knew from that moment it was all on me. I was going to have to sort everything out, and because my ex-husband was in the city, he was earning a lot of money for a long time, so I'd been mostly reliant on the household had been mostly funded by him, so it was time for me to kind of like step up and figure out how I was going
Wow.
to take on that
Where did
role
you even start?
slowly, because I'm really impatient. I want everything now. I think it's probably another. Are you like that?
Yeah.
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 So it was a real like, right, deep breaths, slow and steady, little bits at a time. So we founded Stripe and Star in 2017. I have a co-founder, Nicola, because I knew where my strengths and weaknesses lie, and Nicola runs all of the financials, the operations, the HR side of things, which frees me up to do the sales, the marketing, the PR, the design. So that worked really well.
All the fun stuff.
I get the fun stuff, but she likes the other
Yeah.
stuff. She thinks that's
Yeah, that's
fun.
great.
How do you do all of that? Do you do everything?
Well, I have a really great team in the leadership team, but I hired a COO 2 years ago to do exactly that, like the stuff that I'm not good at, the stuff that he's good at. So he comes from a commercial finance background. So he deals with finance, operations, merchandising, all the back office stuff, and like tech and systems, like
But you
everything
didn't
that
have
just goes over.
that for like 8 years. The first 8 years
I
you were
mean,
doing
like
it all.
I had a good like team who grew with the business,
Yeah.
but we got to a point where I needed someone a slightly more senior. But like after he joined, everyone else grew with us.
Yeah. The other thing that I find is if I'm worrying about cash flow or my head's in some sort of operational issue, I find it really hard to do the other
Yeah.
part because there's
Yeah.
such different sides of the brain that you use for each
Yeah,
one.
exactly. I kind of had to worry about all of that, and thanks to my investment banking, like I guess years, I kind of knew
The
how to
money
do
side
that, but
came
it
really
just didn't.
easily.
They just didn't energize me.
Yeah.
I could kind of do it, but not really well.
That's it. I could muddle through it, but it's much better that someone with more
Yeah.
attention to detail is doing
Yeah,
it than me.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And like they enjoy doing it, right? They
Yeah.
get energized.
I actually love a spreadsheet too, but I just probably wouldn't want to spend all day
Yeah.
in one.
Yeah.
So 2017 was the moment where I had some. And then the universe. I'm such a big believer in the universe, and everything happens at the right time, at the right moment, for reasons. And this sort of angel appeared from nowhere and was like, "I've been watching you and your career, and if you ever want money to do something, let me know." So I had the money, I had the product, I had the business partner. We decided to do it in August 2017, and we started training in October 2017. So it was
wow.
really quick. Once all the pieces were in place, it
So
was
so
really quick.
angel meaning angel investor. That period.
Yeah.
Is that after you launched the brand? So
No, so because I had nothing of my
Yeah.
own. I'd been totally wiped out by the divorce. So I wouldn't have been able to fund it. But Tom came along and said,
yeah.
"I'll support you, whatever you want to do. Just let me know what you want."
Oh wow. Did you know him before, or he just like found you, or you found him?
I should say yes, I did. I had met him apparently, but I didn't remember.
That's
We'd met
amazing.
briefly, really briefly.
Yeah, and
But he's an entrepreneur himself, so he was always
Okay,
interested in
yeah.
other entrepreneurs and what they were doing.
Yeah. So
and
he saw something in you.
he'd been keeping an eye on me.
Yeah, because I
basically,
think an entrepreneur can see another entrepreneur,
yes.
even if they don't have a business.
Yeah, I think so.
We can
You
see it in
you see the
people-
drive,
Yeah,
don't
you see
you?
the drive and the sparkle in the
Yeah.
eyes, don't we?
How did you fund your business when you launched?
On my own.
So
I
from
worked in banking.
savings?
Yeah, from savings. I worked in banking. I was a junior banker, but luckily they paid so much at that time. I felt like I didn't deserve that much money. I saved everything. I made a couple of good investments while I was in banking. I bought 2 flats. I invested in the stock
Oh, you're
market
so
when the
smart.
stock market was going like this.
Yeah.
So I kind of like made good
Had been
choices
smart with your
without
money.
without really knowing. So I sold my first flat. When I was coming to London, I did business school, so to pay for tuition and living, I sold my first flat, and then second flat I sold when I was starting business.
So that funded.
Yeah,
Astrid Miyu.
they that funded Astrid Miyu for the first 3 years, and then I raised money to open our first store with angel investors. So I pitched in front of a group of angel investors and got that money, around like $500,000.
Was that at one of those sort of networking events?
Yeah, it was at an event called London Business Angels. It doesn't exist anymore,
Yeah, I
but
was
back
gonna say, I
then it
haven't heard
was
of that.
like it was huge. So you would pitch in front of 200 investors, which
God,
is so
nerve-wracking.
intimidating. But luckily, there was a lot of momentum at that time, so I raised all my money through that event.
God, that's so great in one day.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
Amazing.
I mean, I had like leading up to that, I was meeting people here and there for 6 months, and people would be like, "Oh, I really like you, but I don't really get the sector. Is this a lifestyle business? Like, what do you want to do with it?" So I think being a young female
Oh my goodness,
founder,
don't get me started.
yeah, I think they assume that it's a lifestyle business because it's also in jewelry,
the
that
number
it's
of
for
people that have
fun.
said, "Oh, it's so nice that you've got a little business. You do it from your house." And I'm like, "Oh my God, I've got a
Yeah, yeah,
3,000
yeah.
square foot warehouse with millions a year in
Yeah,
turnover."
and
Anyway, I
I
still get it.
remember I remember I met a VC and he was like, "Oh, like it's so nice. You're really impressed. My wife is in jewelry as well. She makes jewelry and sells on Etsy." And I was like, "Oh, that's really cute."
I think underwear's probably a bit the same. They think I'm probably like sewing little knickers to sell to my friends
Yeah,
in
yeah.
my from my house.
Yeah, I think the perception has changed now with like the introduction of direct to consumer brands and all these huge brands in the US and here, and the funding readily available in consumer space. But back then, that
Yeah.
was in 2015 when I was raising money. It was hard.
So when we launched in 2017, all VCs were interested in was tech. Everyone was like, we just want to
Yeah,
invest in tech, tech, tech,
yeah,
tech, tech, because
yeah,
they only need one tech
yeah,
business to go
yeah,
mega, and their whole fund is made basically.
yeah.
But so we launched with angels. We had launched us with 70,000, and then we got another 70,000 a year later. And then what we've always loved to do is we then emailed we were thinking about doing a crowd raise because we love that idea of a
Mm,
community and people who love our
yeah.
product
I think
to be
I
investors in
think that's an
us.
amazing way to raise money
Well, then
with
you've
your
got an
founder.
army of investors who
Yeah.
are all out there, sort of
Yes.
singing your praises and telling all their friends about you.
Yeah.
So that's
Exactly.
always stood us in really good stead. So we've raised a bit, but we've never actually needed to go to the crowd phase. We've always raised everything we needed from literally one email to our customer database. We did take a VC
That's amazing.
in 2021. Yeah.
That's during COVID.
Yeah, I mean, I hate saying it. We were lucky with COVID because everyone was at home, shopping online.
Yeah.
They wanted comfort.
Yeah.
So it was a massive moment where,
Yeah.
well, we've had a
Yeah.
couple of lucky moments. Like the Me Too movement was really important for us because I think a lot of women suddenly went, oh my goodness, why have I been dressing for a man and being uncomfortable? So there was a massive shift in the underwear market in about 2017. Then it went even quicker with COVID, with the comfort factor.
But you always had a strong ethos, so you had that foundation, and
Literally, I was looking at our brand Bible when we launched. Not one thing has changed in our DNA. It's all about comfort. It's all about women supporting women and doing things in a better, more sustainable way.
Yeah, I love that.
It's very simple.
Yeah, and it took you 6 years for R&D. That's a huge amount of time.
I know, but I wasn't sort of doing it all day, every day.
So what was that process like?
So what
From
I would
beginning
do,
to end, tell me all about
oh
it.
my God, I'm such a nutter. I used to go on sourcing trips to Hong Kong a lot, and I literally drew a pair of knickers, which my mother has a sewing machine and she can sew. She then made the first prototype. I then went to Hong Kong, got the train into China, and just searched for somebody to help me make them. And
Oh,
I
I
found
love
this
that.
amazing man.
But you already had a
I was there,
prototype.
like waving my knickers,
with your
going,
production
"Who
team
can help?"
back here.
Yeah, my mum,
Yeah.
running it up. And I still work with him today. This man I found, he's the
Oh, that's
most
great.
amazing guy.
Wow. How many suppliers do you have?
We have about 5 now, all spread over the world,
Yeah.
but Adam is still our primary one.
Yeah.
China gets a really bad rep, but I'm really defensive of it because my big thing is it's not where the factory is based, it's the way they treat their workers, the way they do things. And his factory is, oh my goodness, 10,000 times better than a lot of ones I visited in the
Yeah,
UK.
100%. You know what? Our production team recently visited all our factories out in Asia. So we manufacture in China, Thailand, India, and also Italy and the UK. But our like Chinese factory are the best in terms of like sustainability, how they treat their employees, the community aspect, and the vision.
Yeah.
And also how they translate designs as well.
Yeah, I love working with them. They're so honest and open with us. This guy that we work with is so trustworthy. He's more than a supplier now, actually. He's sort of part of the business, really, because he's been with us 20 years. I've worked with him nearly.
Yeah.
It's a
You
long
must be one
time.
of their biggest like buyers as well.
Yeah, he's cut out a lot of the other brands that he was working for before.
Wow,
It's
that's
so
really
small.
good.
It's
Yeah,
small, this
yeah.
factory. How did you find your first factory?
So my first supplier was based in Korea, because I'm from Korea, I naturally went out to Korea because I knew costume jewelry was like in the 70s, 80s, a huge thing
In
in Korea.
Korea.
Yeah, in
I didn't
Korea.
know that. I always think of
Yeah,
Korea as like beauty brands and things,
yeah,
not
yeah, it is
jewelry.
now. There's a lot of innovation and there's a lot of brands now. But when Korea used to be poor in the 70s and 80s, they used to do a lot of manufacturing. But then, Korea didn't isn't competitive anymore because it's a more developed market and
So it's
salaries
expensive.
are
Yeah.
the same as in the UK.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so it's very expensive. But when I first started out, it was just easy because of language, because of culture. And I happened to meet this supplier. She's called Soy, and she was around my age. And normally, typically, jewelry suppliers are middle-aged men. And it was very refreshing because she was a woman. She was
She
my
got
age.
it. She already
Yeah,
had good
she got
taste.
it. And the only reason she was running this business was because her dad passed away early, so she had to run the family business, but her heart wasn't in it. She
No.
wanted to do something more aspirational. So she loved the fact that another Korean was overseas launching a brand, and it felt glamorous, I guess, for her. So she just wanted to back me. So she would just help. Like we would be collaborators. She'd be so good at translating design. So I'm not a designer, so I just tell her this is the kind of stuff I want.
And she'd go off and make
Yeah,
it.
and then she'd kind of sketch it out for me in technical drawing, and she'd translate that for me.
Well, that's exactly what Adam did for me, actually, because I'm not an underwear designer at all. I have no fashion design training. And actually, I think that's been a benefit because it meant that I came at underwear with a fresh pair of eyes. And I was like, why is all this heavy elastic in the seams? Because that's what gives you the VPL, the wedgies, and rides up and is uncomfortable. So I was like, no, you've got to pull them out. And actually, I spoke to a couple of other factories who sort of laughed me out of the room. I'm like, you can't, they won't stay up. You can't do that. I was like, no, if we put this lace here with the flat lock stitching, and Adam was the only one who believed it was doable. So we worked together on that.
Yeah, I think when you're first starting a business with nothing, it's so important to find those people who believe in you, isn't it?
Oh, it's all about who you surround yourself with.
Yeah, yeah. And they need to have that
Everything.
vision, and they need to
Yeah.
believe in you
Yeah.
as a person because you've got nothing.
I've been so lucky since launch, and I'm sure you'd say the same, but just the right people coming into your life at the right time. I think a mistake that I made along the way before Stripe and Stare was having zero confidence and thinking I was a bit rubbish. And so everybody who told me, oh, do this or do that, I'd be like, okay, they've said that's what I should do. I'm going to go and do that. But when all of my shit happened, I was like, fuck this. I'm perfectly capable.
Good for you.
I'm going to start trusting my instincts. And I was furious with myself that I trusted a man who was in the city, so I assumed was brilliant at finance, and let him have total power over my financial life. So my big thing is about women taking responsibility for themselves, ownership, confidence. And I think it's wrapped up in the female founders. Like, we're on that group, aren't we? By Women Built. But there's a real army of women out there, female entrepreneurs, who are trying to change those statistics on the investment money last year. What was it? 2 pence in every pound went to female founded businesses. So, there's a wave of us now, I think, coming through who are trying to show more women that this is a really genuine career path
and I
for
love
them.
that. And the female group that we have, we just uplift each other.
I know,
so
and celebrate all
empowering.
these successes and share knowledge. So it's not like, oh, I'm not giving away my secrets. It's like, no, I can help with that. This is what you should do. I don't think you get it on a man's entrepreneurial group. Maybe I'm wrong.
I don't think so either.
I sound like a real anti-man. I don't hate men at all. I love men.
But I've got 2 girls. Girls are the best.
I've got a girl as well, my Connie. Yeah. Actually, everything I do, for the business, in terms of who we work with, sort of PR partners and influencers, and I always think, is this somebody that I would want my daughter to aspire to be? So women who've really accomplished something and are putting themselves out there and really giving it a go.
So is Connie aware of how successful you are, and is she proud of you?
You're very sweet. You know what? I think she is. Because I worked really hard, she was desperate to go to boarding school. So that was the one thing that I wanted to have enough money to do. And the business, thank goodness, has made that possible for her. So she's so happy to have had that chance to experience something like that, that was her choice. And she often turns around to me and is like, Mummy, I'm just so grateful. It's great, though, actually, because she's now a great PR brand ambassador around the school. So now they're all those girls are in their Stripe and Stare. She called me out the other day. She said, Mummy, Cecily says that B has stolen her hot pink pants. And B says, no, my mummy bought them. So, Mummy, you have to go and look on the website and tell us whether B's mummy actually did buy the pink pants. So they're so popular at the school. They're all like fighting over them.
Oh,
So
I'm not surprised.
she's super proud of that.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's so
it's really
cute.
nice. What
Oh.
about your girls? Are they
Yeah,
aware at all?
I think they are. Like, especially my second one. She's very like feisty. And the other day, like we were on holiday and I took a jewelry making kit from Amazon and we're making jewelry. And she said, like, oh, I'm working on my jewelry business. And it's funny that she's not saying I'm making jewelry. She's saying I'm working on my
I
jewelry
love that.
business.
You're inspiring her.
Yeah, I guess so.
I think they do learn it by sort of osmosis, don't they?
Yeah.
Apparently, my son was giving his classmates an explanation of the VAT and import taxes the other day, and I was like,
Oh, wow.
I was like, where? He's 10. I was like, where has he picked that up? But I suppose he's
Wow.
heard me on the
Yeah.
phone or over
I didn't
dinner.
know what VAT was until I started this business. I was like, what is this VAT thing? Why are they taking 20% off of me?
It's my money.
No.
But I think my Connie would quite like to do it when she's older.
Yeah.
She's a bit of an all-rounder, like she's not specifically sporty
Yeah.
or science or anything. So
Yeah. But they have a good head start, right? Because I would have never imagined, or I would have never said, like, I'll start my own business when I was like 15.
I would not have thought of it. It just wouldn't have been,
Yeah.
yeah, no, absolutely not.
Yeah. And I don't remember anyone saying, like, I want to be a businesswoman.
What did your parents do?
My dad was a diplomat. He worked for the government, and my mom was a stay-at-home mom.
So there was no entrepreneurialism in your
No
background either?
entrepreneurialism.
No,
And,
neither.
you know, like some of my mom's family, they were entrepreneurs, but they were like, there were so many ups and downs. So entrepreneurialism to me was always like, oh, like it's very risky. There's so many ups and downs.
Yeah, there are a lot of ups and downs. And I think that's one of the biggest lessons that I've learned along the way is you just can't get too stressed. You've
Yeah.
just got to find a way
Yeah.
to realize it's just a pair of knickers.
Yeah.
And the world is not going to end.
So pivoting back to your products, your R&D, sustainability, you are recently B Corp certified.
Yeah, we got that last summer, which was great. We were one of the
Congratulations.
yeah, it
Can
was
you
a-
tell
it
can you
was-
tell me more?
So we wanted to get it because there's so much greenwashing. We all know, we've all seen the H&Ms and the Boohoo's and everybody trying to pretend that they're green and that kind of thing. And we were like, how can we show our customers that we really are a company who's doing things differently? And we love the B Corp accreditation because it's not just about the sustainability, it's also about the ESG, so the social, the governance, the how you look after your staff, your suppliers, like thinking about every single part of your business. So that was an amazing process. And that was something that I wanted as well, because I think a lot of us female founders, I've got a good stat for you. So the 2 pence in every pound went to female founder businesses in investment last year, but 23% of the UK's B Corp businesses are female led. So it does show that when women set up a business, they tend to do it in a slightly different, more purposeful way. So that was something as well that I wanted for my daughter is, you know, you can work in business, you can be successful, but you can still do it in a sort of kind, nice way. You know what I mean? I would have always
Yeah.
thought that entrepreneurs were sort of men who were like stomping into rooms and screaming and shouting and but it's just not the way it has to be.
Yeah. I do feel like female-run businesses are a lot nicer, and retention rate, I would imagine, is higher. I don't know the stats, but like I would imagine
On the
so.
staff, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. I think Natalie Messanet, I used to follow her actually. She was a real trailblazer for showing how things could be done differently. She had
Yeah.
the best reputation when she was at Net-a-Porter for just being the nicest woman.
Yeah.
Yeah. So she was a real inspiration.
Yeah,
in that.
that's really inspiring, right? Because you see all these like ballsy businessmen and you think like, oh, you need to exude confidence and like just think about
You've
yourself.
got to be like
and
Donald
the-
Trump or
yeah.
Alan Sugar and
Yeah, exactly.
go around in your chauffeur-driven Rolls Royce. But I think women
Yeah.
are just a bit calmer.
Yeah. We need to create our own show where like
Oh, we
have like
should.
kind women running businesses.
That's my background is TV.
Yeah.
We can make this happen.
Yeah, let's do that.
Let's do it. Can you be front of camera and I'll be behind directing it?
As a single mom, and I know like you work between Devon and London.
Yeah, it's a
How
lot.
do you balance, or like do you not balance?
I don't balance at all. It's always there's things falling around all over the place. My mum's amazing. She helps me out a lot. So I would not have this business if it wasn't for her. Lots of to-do lists. And then I've had to make a lot of sacrifices. Like I went to see my friend this weekend, who's been one of my best friends since I was 16. I haven't been to her house in 5 years, we worked out. So there's not much of a social life right now. So there are lots of sacrifices, but I'd rather do it this way and sort of work incredibly hard for maybe not an extended period of time. So
Yeah.
hopefully sort of exiting in a few years. I'd much rather that and just focus on, so I am so 100% razor focused on the children and work, and there's really not room for much else, which is fine for now.
Yeah, and you've got a really good co-founder, right?
So I've got Nicola.
Who's a really close friend of yours
Yeah,
as
she's
well.
great.
How did you meet her, and how did you decide to go into business together?
She was one of my sister's best friends. So it was great that there was somebody that I could trust, that I'd done she'd helped me out a little bit when I had the stores. So I knew that we worked well together and her skills balanced mine. So it was just luck, you know, the right person. She'd just left a job as an MD for a French company with quite an aggressive, toxic environment. So she was looking for something new, and having both experienced very toxic workplaces, we were like, let's just do this a bit differently.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah.
So, and yeah, she basically lived with me during the pandemic. She kind of moved into my house.
Oh, wow.
So it was a lot.
Yeah.
She's basically like family now.
That's intense.
We hardly ever fight,
but you're
though.
so lucky it worked out, because it could go like
It
either
could
way,
have.
right? With
It
the
could have.
co-founder. Yeah.
I think because we'd both seen situations with other people where it had gone badly, that we made it. It's like a marriage. My God, you have to just make a real effort and like watch
100%.
yourself.
What are some key tips and like to someone who's looking for a co-founder? What do you need to look out for?
Well, the number one is trust. Like, I would trust Nicola with my life. I know she's the most honest person. Like, I never need to check figures, like, as in I would never worry about our bank balance or anything, because I know that she's got all that just under control. So the trust thing, I think, is really huge. And then just working out where your strengths are and making sure you're surrounding yourself with people who can fill in all the gaps, because nobody can do everything. You just can't.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
Self-awareness is so important in running a business, isn't it?
And I didn't start this until I was like 40, so by that point I had quite good. I knew where I was strong and weak.
Yeah, for me it was a journey, because I started this in my early 30s, and like I was still like very unaware. So like I learned a lot about myself.
You do. Oh God, I would.
So, like some of them were really painful.
Of course, but don't you want that out of life? Like my worst nightmare would be to go and sit at a desk and do the same job all day, every day. Like I love the challenge and the excitement I even love it when it goes wrong, because it's like, right, come on team, how are we going to get out of this? You know, what are we going to do?
Yeah, when I see you or talk to you, there's so much like positivity.
Is there?
Yeah. Where do you think that comes from? Were you always positive? No?
No.
and like, isn't she like really like positive?
So are you. I think another thing with an entrepreneur, and that's part of the resilience, is you have to be an optimist. Because if you weren't, then you just wouldn't take the risk.
You have to be kind of like positive and ruthless at the same time.
Yeah, and realistic.
Yeah, and you have to have that drive that no one else has. Like, you have to
my
have that,
worst
like,
fear would be to live a boring life. So it's not about the money. Well, obviously, the money is super important, because I'm bringing up my children by myself, so that's essential. But the actual real thing for me is trying to find out what I'm made of and what I'm capable of. Because I don't want to get to 80 and go, oh, I wish I'd given that a try. Like, living with regret would be my worst.
Yeah, me too.
Have you ever read the Brené Brown stuff?
Yeah.
Love her.
Dare to Lead.
Yes.
Yeah, what else?
The one, I love her thing when she's like, just about trying and vulnerability and putting yourself out there. And that's when you really get the most out of life.
Yeah.
So I read all of her books when I was starting, listened to loads of podcasts. I'm trying to think
What are
which
some
ones.
podcasts you listen to?
Well, Stephen Bartlett wasn't around then, was he? The Diary of a CEO. They would have probably been really boring, like Harvard Review podcasts or something, quite serious.
They're quite serious and sometimes theoretical, right? You want real life stories.
Yeah.
How I Built This is really good.
Yes,
Guy
I listened
Raz.
to that. That's good. There's one, the Holly Tucker one's really good as well. Stories of Inspiration.
Yeah, that's really
I
good.
listen to that a lot. And every time you listen to these things, you just pick up something new, don't you? You learn something that you're like, you probably haven't thought of before.
What else do you listen to?
I am, oh my God, I'm embarrassed to say. The girls in the office tease me so badly because I'm in the car or traveling so much. I listen to a lot of serial killer podcasts.
They're so interesting, though.
I just love true stories, and I think I'm really interested in psychology as well.
Yeah, me too.
You are too, yeah.
I'm
that was
obsessed
my
with psychology.
Yeah, that was my uni degree. So
okay.
that's kind of where I'm fascinated by what makes people tick. So when there's a Ted Bundy, I'm like, really?
Yeah. Psychology is so important in running a business as well. It's all about psychology.
I think it is, particularly when you're working in a team. You've got to really know how to read the room, and your emotional intelligence is super important.
And also understanding your customers, right?
Exactly, particularly when you're a D2C business. So can I ask you, how were you so brave to do so many retail stores? Like,
How am I so brave to?
Did you do one? So you did one, and it just worked so well. That's why I was like, this is working, so let's just roll it out.
Oh yeah, yes and no. We launched St. Christopher's Place in 2015, and it was a slow burn. It was profitable because we don't need a big space, and we're on a side street, not a main.
I've been in there.
We weren't in like Oxford Circus or Regent Street. We're in St. Christopher's Place where the rent was reasonable. But it was a slow burn until like, we had a dedicated cult following at that time, but we weren't able to get new customers until we launched piercing. So we used to get loads of feedback from customers because we're so well known for our ear jewelry. Do you do piercing? Do you do piercing? Like the amount of questions we get asked. And I was like, it's so complicated because logistically it's quite complicated. Hiring someone and also like setting everything up,
The
licensing
health and safety, I'm
and
sure,
health and
is
safety.
quite
There's
full
huge
on.
risks to it.
Yeah, I'm sure.
We were kind of toying on this idea for like about 2 years, I think. And then like I was out in New York and piercing parties seemed to be really popular. So I came back and in 2017 we launched piercing as a party for influencers. And then our customers were asking for it when they saw the content. So we opened up once a week in our St. Christopher's location. Every time we launched it, they just got fully booked within the first hour.
Wow.
And then we started rolling it out
There
2
was
days a
you
week.
are the only place to go. Like all of my daughter's friends, they're at that age where they're all getting their ears
Yeah,
pierced,
I
and
think
the
so.
only
I mean,
place they
there
go
are
is
these like mom and pop shops, but they can be intimidating, and you can go to, the high street.
Well,
Like,
it used to be the
yeah.
chemist, I think. Do you remember? Where did
Yeah,
you get your
yeah,
ears
yeah.
pierced?
I got mine pierced at a local jeweler in Korea, and they did it with a gun.
Yeah, I had
and
the
like
gun.
I had infections.
Oh god,
Yeah,
it was
and I
such an
think
awful experience. But where I
yeah.
had it done, you went and sat in the chemist, and like a grey-haired old man came along with his gun.
Yeah,
It
and with
wasn't
the
a
gun
positive
piercing, the
experience.
problem is like you can't really angle it properly and it gets wobbly within your skin. And some people have thick ears and that becomes very tricky and that's where infection comes from. Whereas our piercers pierce with the needle straight, it just goes straight and they angle it
Yeah,
at a certain
I
way.
had my is it called a double or a second? I never know.
Yeah, a second or double. Oh, yeah, it doesn't matter.
My daughter's always rolling her
Yeah.
eyes at me because I always say it wrong. No, we love it there.
Yeah, so it's super professional and the gauge is quite thick, so we leave a lot of room for healing. And not a lot of places
Yeah,
do
Connie
it
and I didn't have
properly.
any problems at all with
Yeah.
infections. And I
Oh, that's
remember,
really good to hear.
yeah, I remember lots of her friends did.
Yeah.
Actually, one of her friends had it done at a very expensive jeweler
Yeah,
and
yeah.
had to come straight out. It was so
Yeah,
infected.
and we wanted to make, professional piercing that's otherwise like very expensive, very accessible and very, I guess, approachable. So when we launched piercing, it just blew up. So we would have influencers and celebrities come in to get their ears pierced.
Oh, who's the most famous person whose ears you've pierced?
Ooh, Michelle Visage and Holly Willoughby.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, they were amazing.
Don't you love those moments when something
yeah,
like
yeah.
and
It's like a pinch me moment.
yeah, definitely.
And like we also launched welding services, which is huge now, the bracelet welding, and the whole Beckhams came in.
Oh, I'm not surprised. I want to have that with my daughter. I think it's such a lovely mummy daughter, like
Yeah.
matching kind of
Yeah,
bracelets.
and my husband Joe got influenced because of David Beckham. And
So
now
what?
he's
David
got
had
it.
one, and
Yes,
all the boys,
yes,
all
yes.
of them.
So I think like from how we stopped them, Romeo and his girlfriend came into one of our stores.
Oh, I
and
love her. Is
then-
that Mimi Mucha?
Yeah.
She's very cool. Yeah.
So if you do like a zoom and close up, they all have our welded bracelets. And then
Jewelries are quite hard to spot in a picture. It's a bit like underwear.
Yeah,
It's like,
exactly.
can you
Yeah.
just blow up your skirt for a sec so we can show everyone what you're
And then,
wearing?
like Victoria and David came in with Harper.
Was that your Notting Hill store?
It was our Kings Road store, and everyone was starstruck, but we were all trying to like act cool.
Play it cool.
Yeah,
play it cool.
yeah.
When I had my shop, Kate Middleton used to come in all the time, like Sienna Miller and people, and I'd be like, yeah, no, pretend you don't know who they are.
Yeah, my friend.
Yeah, we had Oprah Winfrey go into a
I
store.
know.
I mean, that was
I
cool.
got that. I got that pajama set. I got the Oprah
You
set.
were
I was influenced.
Yeah, so I mean, that was completely unexpected. She went into a store in Montecito, where she lives
That's
in
huge.
California, and just found it. She bought
That's
it all.
amazing.
She's amazing. She won't
Yeah.
receive anything gifted. She wants to pay for
I guess you
everything.
can afford it.
I was going to say, yeah, it's probably the right thing to do.
Yeah.
And then after that, she's just been ordering loads more. But because we didn't pay her or anything, we were like, oh, we can't talk about it. But then suddenly she just appeared on the feed on her Instagram.
That's
in it.
amazing.
Yeah, so exciting. I love those moments. They make it all worthwhile, don't
Yeah,
they?
yeah,
All
absolutely.
the hard work.
Yeah. So what's on your mind right now?
Oh, we got a new CEO, which has been game changing. So she started, actually, it's nearly a year ago now, but we needed somebody in the business who really had a huge depth of experience in managing stock, and scaling. She'd been at Bowden, do you know the Bowden?
Yes.
She'd been at Bowden for 12 years before us. So she's really seen everything in retail. And we kind of needed that level of expertise to really grow the business for the next level. I mean, this year, touch wood, has been amazing for us. Our growth numbers are really strong. So it feels like a really exciting time. We're going to keep growing the D2C. Then we do a lot of wholesale. So we partner with people like Selfridges and Shopbop. So keep growing those kind of accounts. And then we're going to start working on a strategy to take on America. So I'll probably be coming knocking on your door for advice for that.
Yeah. I mean, likewise. Yeah. So what's next for you?
Personally?
Yes.
Oh my goodness, that's a big question. We're working at the moment with a
Corporate finance advisor.
so when you're like
Yeah.
planning your
Yeah.
strategy for investment and exits, and I think that's going to be really important for me personally, is to have an exit date in mind, because it's so full on.
Yeah.
I never get 5 minutes to myself. I'm not moaning, but it's the truth. There's never a second in
Are
the
you
day.
planning, have you started that process already?
I don't know whether I should be saying this, but slightly, yeah.
Oh, wow.
I have a real thing, and it's a piece of advice. You would have written a business plan before you started. Like, that's the most.
I didn't, actually.
Connie!
No. And I went to business
And you
school
were
as
a
well, right?
banker.
And I did an MBA as well.
Did you
but
not write
I had
one?
no business plan.
Did you not? You just sort of
No.
like.
No. But I'm naturally a very intuitive person.
You're
Like-
more confident than me because I need to have everything mapped out.
Yeah, I don't know whether it's like the confidence or lack of organization, but like
I
whatever you
don't
call it.
believe it's the lack of organisation. There's no way you've done what you've done if you're disorganised. For me, because I'm quite a chaotic, my brain, I think, has a bit of ADHD in it. So for me, I need to have a path, because otherwise I feel like I'm out of control. But the path can change. So today we're sort of working towards a 3-year exit plan, but anything could happen. We might be having so much fun that we want to just keep going, and it's really cash generative. So we never say never, but it's nice just to have a plan to work to,
Yeah,
even if you're not
absolutely.
going to totally stick to it.
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah. And you?
Me, my personal goals. I'd love to be able to step down from day to day from Astrid Miyu at some point, but I'd love to still be involved, like as chair or like I don't know, chief vision officer, something like
Yeah.
that. But I'd like, to be honest, I didn't sign up to this to be a CEO.
Yeah.
Like I think I'm a founder through and through.
Me
Maybe,
too. The
and
vision, the
yeah,
ideas,
yeah.
the
And I had to
energy.
really force myself to be a CEO. And I only recently put on my LinkedIn profile that I'm a CEO. I used to always say founder of Astrid.
Did you
Miyu.
feel like you had a bit of imposter?
Imposter? Yeah. I was like,
I'm not a
CEO?
CEO.
Like, I don't feel like a CEO.
Oh my God, isn't that awful? That's how
Yeah.
you feel. And all these other women would look at you and go, oh my God, she's the most mega CEO. You should be shouting it.
Oh, that's so sweet of you.
Yeah, no, it's funny actually that we were talking about personally. We both asked each other about personally, but then we both brought it straight back to business.
Yeah, we did.
The
Yeah,
workaholism is
Yeah.
there. But I think when you are running a business, it's like another child, isn't it? It just takes up
Yeah,
every
absolutely.
part. So your personal
Absolutely.
life is completely
Yeah.
wrapped up in it. There's no real separation, which is not particularly healthy. And I don't think you can do it forever.
And what advice would you give your younger self and young entrepreneurs?
Write a business plan. I do actually think you should write a business plan. Even if it changes, it will change all the time, but just to have a sort of outline of, God, people always say it should be a 3-year plan,
Yeah.
but really a year.
A vision, right?
Yeah.
I
so
think
you
a vision is important.
Yeah, we spent a lot of time on like our brand books, our tone of voice, who our customer is. We know exactly who she is. So that's really helpful, is knowing exactly who your customer is, so you know exactly how to talk to them all the time. I think having a great product. I would hate to have a business that didn't have a great product, because it's tough, and that's what's going to see you through.
Yeah.
Is having something that customers are going to come back for,
Yeah.
and trust a brand that people trust in and believe in.
Yeah, that's the baseline, isn't it? It's the fundamental.
If you don't have that, then I don't know how anything else is possible,
Yeah.
really. So that takes time, research, thought, planning to really get that bit right.
Yeah, great advice.
Yeah, and then just surround yourself with good people
Yeah.
and go slow and steady. Don't rush, because my instinct is
Yeah.
always quicker, faster.
Yeah, that's such good advice. Have self-belief and go slowly.
Yeah, but not too much self-belief that you don't get advice when you do need it. Sometimes other people do know
But do
best.
stuff, right?
But trust your instincts. Oh my God, that's been the biggest lesson to me, is having that, like you say, the self-belief to trust in myself and my own judgment.
So how can people find you and Stripe and Stare?
They can go onto our Instagram at Stripe and Stare, or our website, and stripeandstare.com. and try out the world's most comfortable knickers.
Thank you so much, Katie. That was so inspiring and so much fun.
I loved it. Thanks, Connie.
Thank you so much for listening. Don't forget to follow the podcast wherever you're listening or watching. You can follow me at Connie Nam, Astrid Miyu at Astrid Miyu, and Unboxed Instagram page at unboxed_founder confidential. See you next week.